focus of this conversation, even though it's a career change, it's more been a shift of focus.
Yeah.
This is the podcast where we share the tips and tricks we learn on our journey to build wealth through real estate. Welcome to the Hello Haymarket Podcast.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dana Nice, and welcome to another episode of Hello Haymarket. Today, we have Michele Cook. Michele, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, guys. Thanks for inviting me.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about today is the career change.
Yeah.
Right? I so often, I have conversations with people about real estate, whether it's a consultation or whether it's just someone in my day-to-day life, my sphere of influence, and they look at real estate as a way of making money. Mm-hmm. Even when they don't have any.
Right.
It's like, well, you're not really going to be an investor necessarily if you don't have money to invest.
Correct.
Instead, you might be better off looking at how to build money through more of a job, right? More of an active income, right? That's certainly what happened with me. And it looks like that's something that you've also decided to do.
Yes.
Right? So maybe if we could roll back the clock a little bit and tell us a little bit about your story.
All right. So, it all started many, many moons ago when I was in a different career, similar structure to real estate, but, super in your face retail sales. Mm-hmm. I was, in my last career, I was an executive for a very popular cosmetic company. Some of you guys may know who it is. And I did various roles within those 16 years. So I started off as a part-time, employee, then made my way into management. I was a trainer, so I was in education. And then in my last role, I was an executive sales. So, that leadership there is kind of what fueled my career in this next chapter.
Yeah. So why ever leave that?
So that's a great question because actually a lot of people in my life at the time asked me when I resigned, why leave that? Well, there's a number of reasons. First, I think that family, you realize you can make all the money in the world, but you can never buy that time back. So with my family, I was losing a lot of time. I had a lot of other people helping me take care of my kids, not a lot of time, with my husband. And it was, for sure an eye-opening experience once we went through the pandemic because we were forced to spend time together. So I decided that I needed to give them time back that I could not buy anywhere else. Yeah. Second is, that salary, it does hold you.
Golden handcuffs?
Absolutely. It holds you to a place in your life that sometimes you can't see past because you're so comfortable. And I often say this to people, like, don't let the salary keep you there because there's so much other money to be made elsewhere. And sometimes not even about the money. Like I got into real estate, definitely not because of the money, because I had no idea what I was going to get myself into because I've already made money. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I was like, I really wanted this for time freedom. I wanted this for a different experience. And ultimately, I kind of capped out. I capped out on everything in my last career. The position that I was in, what else could I do with the company? There was no more. And I could not relocate. So there was really no other kind of promotions available for me. So it was time. Yeah. So I gracefully bowed out and made that transition. And now I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I knew that I had bought a house 4 years, almost 5 years previously. And I was like, that experience was the best experience ever. There was a lot of highs and lows. Mm-hmm. And I would love to be able to educate others about that. And that's actually where I started the thought about getting into real estate was I want to educate people about how to purchase a home because I purchased it on a whim. And it was a great experience, but I would have loved to know a little bit more about it to make, some of the better decisions.
Yeah. So you leave the other job, you move into real estate. Why real estate? Was it just that experience of having bought the home and it triggered like some sort of passion in you, or were there other reasons too?
No, really, that's kind of what it is. It was, I always have had a background in education, talent development, and I always found that that's where you kind of learn who you are, because if you have the patience to be able to walk someone through something and see the light bulb moment go off, you know what I mean? You know exactly kind of where you are in life. And that value never goes away and for someone else, right? They totally see you in a totally different light. And I wanted to continue that. And I think that in 2020, right, already everyone was talking about real estate. And I think I just made the connection. I just clicked it like, real estate is the highest form of sales. Yes. I was selling...
It's a much bigger ticket.
I was selling $18 lipsticks, and I was like, it has all the same processes and all the same like structure, but the product is different. That's what it is. You still need all the same skill sets.
It really sounds to me like you were looking for more fulfillment.
Yeah.
Because you were going away from the security of the salary that you had there.
Correct.
And you were looking for something that would give you more control over your time to be with your family, but also beyond that, the time that you do work, you wanted to do something that you were passionate about and where you could see growth.
Correct.
Because it seems like the growth had capped out, as you said, where you were.
Yeah. And I worked so hard for so long that I actually wanted to work as hard as I want to work when I want, and then not work at all.
That sounds like a dream.
Yeah. Yes. And in an industry like real estate, you can do that. Yeah. Depending on what you are looking for in terms of like, if you really want to make a certain income, you have to work really hard. If you're like, you know what, I'm good. I don't have to make any income for the next 5 months. I'll just not work. You know what I mean? Those are the choices that you have. And that's kind of, for me, that was really key, is being able to have that choice. Yeah. Right? I have the privilege of dropping my kids off at school and picking them up every day, because I want them, when they grow up, to remember that, like, oh yeah, my parents got to do that, because I didn't necessarily have that, right? I mean, that's just, we came from a different, background of that. That wasn't a thing, because both parents worked. But I want to be able to provide that for them. I think it's important. Yeah,
I think personally, I when I look at my value list, family is at the top of that hierarchy, right? Money is just a means of supporting that family.
Absolutely. And by the way, your family will never necessarily turn their back on you. Your family will always, provide for you. It doesn't have to be financially. It could just be support. It could be love. You know what I mean? There's so many other things.
Blood's thicker than water.
Absolutely. Where, a job or a career.
Your work family.
comes and goes. Let me tell you. Yeah. Although I do have a work family that I love very dear, and we have built years and years and years of just friendship, and we all worked together in our last careers. We've all moved on. Some of us have moved on, but we still stay close. So that's the one thing that I took from my last career.
Yeah. The relationships.
100%.
Well, I wouldn't say that's the only thing you took from your last career, actually. Let's amend that.
Yes.
Because a lot of the skill sets that I'm sure you developed over years were transferable, I would imagine.
Yes, absolutely. So in retail sales, you're dealing with people all day long. People who are customers, and then you're also dealing with managing people. And so I did that for the latter part of my career. And you are put through the test of making sure that you are communicating effectively. I've learned how to give feedback very well in so many different scenarios of really embarrassing moments for someone else, but I really had to provide them with professional feedback. Yeah. And how to have difficult conversations, right? So, and how to stay true to yourself and how to stay calm and all those good things. So that's a skill set that I definitely transferred over.
That's definitely valuable to have a sturdy rock in the storm. Because oftentimes in these real estate transactions, it can get quite contentious between buyer and seller.
Yes.
Because we're talking about very important decisions, life-changing decisions for these folks. I mean, for most people, the purchase or sale of a house is it's the largest investment they will make in their entire life.
Yeah.
And so having someone to steer you through that with confidence and calm is very important.
Yeah, and I mean, when there's money involved, your emotions can go. I mean, you can be the most calm person ever, but as soon as there's money involved, that's when the true side comes out, right?
That's right.
And yes, having someone who is guiding you that is level-headed for the most part and can have really assertive conversations that, can make you just think. So whether it's with a buyer or seller, having them think, having them kind of go back and kind of looking within themselves to say, am I making the right decision? And being okay with, sometimes you having to like take something away from them. And that's what I did very often in my last career.
It brings to mind for me a stark contrast between the conversation that you and I are having versus the conversation I've had so many times when we talk about getting into real estate and becoming a realtor or one of the other real estate related jobs to earn an income. Oftentimes the focus of the conversation is, it's scalable, I need to make a ton of money, I need to scale up. It's rare for me to have a conversation where we talk about, no, you have the freedom to scale down, right?
100%.
You don't have to sell 200 houses.
Correct. For
your needs and what you're trying to accomplish, maybe you're better off selling 5 houses.
Yes.
Now, we live in Northern Virginia, so those 5 houses might sell for $1 million.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that when I got into real estate, I actually was like, I could I didn't even, by the way, I wasn't even talking I can sell houses. It was more about, I just want to be able to provide value to people. I want to walk them through how to do this in a very systematic approach. I worked on strategy for a really long period of time in my last career. Always had strategy meetings, always had to figure out how I was going to make business happen. And so I wanted to bring that to this particular industry, creating strategies for people. If you thought that you could never buy a house, well, guess what? There is a strategy. There is a way for you to be able to do that. Yeah. And let me help you there. I never wanted to get into this industry because I thought that, I'm going to be the next Selling Sunset. And I still don't believe that. You know what I mean?
It's not really what you're trying to achieve.
Correct. I'm not out there I'm going to be top producing, blah, blah, blah. I am here for a different purpose. I'm here to educate. That's my niche.
And it's also one of those things where as you get better at this, you actually could still produce a high income for your family without being chained to the 40-hour work week.
Correct.
It's one of those things where as you stay in the industry longer and longer, old clients come back to you, all those relationships you built reach out to you, and you wake up out of the blue and there's an appointment, someone who needs your help.
Yeah, 100%. By the way, most of my transactions, and they're called transactions here in the real estate world, but you are not a transaction, I promise. Most of my buyers and sellers have actually come from my sphere from my last career. And they're, a lot of them former employees that reached out and they're like, I trusted you with my, journey then. And of course I will trust you now. And that's very meaningful because you don't realize, what impact you have on someone until they follow you into the next career.
I think it's so true. There's a lot of people out there who are perhaps in a similar position to yours. Maybe they've worked in a corporate job for a long time and they've built a lot of relationships. They probably don't even realize if they were to open up their phone how many people they know that would be willing to do business with them if they were to jump into this new career.
That's correct.
And maybe they don't have to work 40 or 60 or 80 hours, God forbid, depending upon what position you're in.
Yes. Yeah. It's just, the thing is, it's never pass up a conversation. So even and we learned this obviously in day one of real estate, right? It's that first impression is everything. Building that relationship is really important. Well, those relationships that I may have had in my previous career and even just conversations or just mutual, friendships or relationships, those come a long way when you're trying to build something else, right? Even more so now because you want to make sure that you are kind of seen as the expert in now a new territory, right? Yeah. Where you were the expert in another. And so forging those relationships a little bit deeper.
And that can be scary for new agents, right? For anyone out there who's thinking about doing what you did or doing what we did, right? Moving into a new industry. It can be scary to be they think, for me, everyone thought of me as the karate guy.
Exactly.
Now I have to explain to them that I'm going to help them write contracts on real estate.
Exactly.
Right? And that can be intimidating sometimes. So how did you deal with that? Was that hard for you or was it easier than I'm making it out to be?
When I was going on my farewell tour because I provided a pretty long resignation. And, people always ask, well, what are you going to do? Because, you basically grew up here. So what are you going to do now? And I was like, I'm going to first raise my kids through this pandemic, and then I'm going to get my real estate license, and we'll see where that takes me. Every single person was like, oh my God, I could totally see you being, a real estate agent, just based on how you carry yourself, just how your work ethic, how you like to develop and train and make sure that people, know what value you're adding. That's definitely you. And I appreciated that, right? Because, some people can give you those kind of false compliments because they don't know what else to say.
Platitudes.
For me, it was people do really support and believe that, I will be great in this industry. And I think I use that to kind of fuel my career, and knowing that I have so much under my last few years of being in retail sales, and a tool belt full of random tools that I could use in this industry, and that's helpful.
That's really great. I love how everyone in your life gave you such positive feedback, right? We don't always get that.
Yeah.
So clearly that was one challenge that maybe was not something that was sort of Damocles holding over your head. But maybe were there any others? I know a lot of people have fears when they're jumping from one career to the next. Was there anything that stood out to you as a challenge that maybe in retrospect you shouldn't have been so worried about?
While people, yes, were being very supportive, I've also had the, oh my God, you're crazy. You're going to let go of your salary? So what's going to happen, And while, yes, comments like that sometimes can start to, get to you, and you're trying to think well, what am I going to do? At the end of the day, as long as you are making the necessary provisions in your lifestyle to make it work, you're going to be all right. And, my husband and I talked long and hard about that, and knowing that we wanted to do this, just a change of lifestyle is needed, that we would have to kind of look at what we were providing to our family right then and there, no more Amazon shopping days, things like that.
So other than picking your kids up and dropping them off, is there anything else that's been a wonderful positive that maybe you didn't expect?
Getting to know all of you guys.
A new work family.
Yes, a new work family, yes. I often thought that real estate was a very in your own silo kind of career, right? And I didn't know what being on a team was like, because I'm I was on a team in my last career, and obviously we are still very close. I didn't know what that really meant. Are we just all people who, are in the same brokerage, wear the same team name, but we really just work by ourselves? And then coming here to CAZA, I was like, oh, yes, they function like a family. They meet a lot. They see each other a lot. So that was a nice surprise, and a nice okay, this could work, because I need that, energy, and just kind of the on-the-job training, right, that you learn every day.
Yeah, I know for me when I switched careers, that was the big fear, was I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I coming from an industry where, in the martial arts, I was the master, and it makes sense to always bring on board an expert to teach the student what they need to learn in order for them to really succeed.
Right.
I came in with the same mindset where I was like, okay, if I'm going to get into a new industry, I need to surround myself with people who are really good at what they do, and, just watch, listen, learn. If they're willing to actively teach me, that would be even better. And so being able to join a team was, for me, a huge blessing.
Yes. And I already had someone in my personal life that was on the team, or is on the team. So Janae, the story of Janae.
Yes, we love Janae.
Full circle. So Janae was an employee of mine. She ran a store, and we had, obviously built a nice friendship throughout both of our career and our last jobs. And when I left, I told her I was, going to get my real estate license. She was like, I think I want to do that too. And I was like, yeah, you should totally. That's something that I know that you feel passionate about. And she did. And she joined CAZA before me. And she was like, you have to come here. And so, of course, because I trusted her and I do value her thoughts and opinion, of course I followed suit. And so what's cool now is people see us together and they're like, oh yeah, I remember. So it's, again, you kind of take that relation that we had elsewhere and you bring it here, and people now remember us and they think that that's amazing that we are continuing on.
I do love that. I love that story. I love the fact that this is not, and now while the money has been good, that's not been the focus of the story.
Correct.
The focus of this conversation, even though it's a career change, it's more been a shift of focus.
Yeah.
We've opened up more opportunities for you to focus on your family, your friendships, the relationships between you and your clients, and a much more open-ended level of control over how much time are you spending on those relationships versus how much time are you trying to expand the business that you're in.
Exactly. I remember someone said to me, it was a seller, and they were like, I'm so sorry that like I'm just taking so long with like thinking this through. And I was like, oh no. I was like, it's all good. I said, I'm here for the long haul. Like, I can wait the rest of my life to then sell your home at some point. Like, it's all good. There's no rush here. And that like made them feel a little bit better, you know, that I'm not like trying to move on to the next. Like, this is not, you know. It's
not commission breath.
Right. And it's not a revolving door, you know, because that's the one thing that we value is having those kind of repeat clients, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, Michele, I've got to imagine that it's not easy to make a switch. We've been talking about it in the past tense, now that we're on the other side of it.
Yes.
But at the time, what kinds of difficulties did you maybe go through?
Well, I went from being a full-time, you know, executive, never home, always out and about, 2 phones, like from that to then being basically a stay-at-home mom during the pandemic, trying to get 2 young kids through school, right? So that shift right there was already like, what?
It's like cold turkey.
Yeah. And not only did I go from that to like stay-at-home mom, I remember because I had a corporate car throughout my entire career, right? So it was the first time I didn't have like a car. I was like, oh, this is interesting. I didn't care because, again, that was something I was willing to let go, right? Yeah. But when it was time for me to buy a car, and I went and like filled out the application, and under occupation, I was like, oh, what do I write? Wait, I don't have a job. That was the first time it sunk in that I do not have a job. And I remember like calling my mom and being like, what do? I don't have a job. And so it was like the first time that my husband had to be like on something financially because I couldn't hold it down. And I felt some kind of way about that. I'm not going to lie. Like I was a little like, wait, what do you mean? You know? And I really put some things into perspective for me that sometimes you do have to make a sacrifice to then get what you truly want in life, right? Yeah. So that was the sacrifice right then and there. Yeah. So I let that go easily. Like I was like, all right, fine. I'm not going to be the breadwinner, or I'm not part of the breadwinning team in this family, but it was fine. And so I was eager to start real estate because I wanted to start to build my identity. So got into real estate, joined, fast forward, joined CAZA, right? I realized, wow, I don't know who I am and who I should be. And do I still wear makeup? Do I still wear black? Do I, all these things, because I was, one person, one way for such a long time that I needed to figure out, well, who am I now? What my real estate identity is. And I had to just kind of figure out, what did I feel comfortable with? Could I still be myself and wearing sneakers to showings? And I had to really I know it
relates so much to that basic question. How do I show up dressed for these clients?
No, seriously, because I think my first day on a showing, I wore heels and a dress, and by the way, the home was a distressed property, and I was like, oh,
oops.
Oh, yeah. So, I think after going through experiences like that, I realized, okay, that's not going to work for me. And I want to be comfortable. I want to be who I am. And I can't do my job if I'm not comfortable. Yeah. And then I realized that I'm not at a meeting full of retail partners and executives. I'm with a client that is, potentially looking to buy this home. So I have to kind of meet them on their level too, because if I'm intimidating, right? Just my overall affect of my look, it could put them off. And so I had to start thinking about that and meeting them where they are. So I still stayed true to myself in terms of like being glam and, because that's what I was built on. That's what I'm really still passionate about. But still being cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do. I connect so much with this question of self-identity and self-expression. How do I want to appear to my clients and to my friends, frankly?
100%.
Because these are who these people are, right? In order to build a business in real estate, you need to make a lot of friends because these are the people who are going to do business with you.
Yeah.
And I can remember my first few months, I was wearing suits every day because I was like, okay, I'm in a new industry. I need to show up and I need to look good. And I was the only one doing that. And then it occurred to me, okay, maybe I don't need to have like the tie and the cuffs. Like maybe I'm doing too much, right? No more pocket squares, right?
Correct.
I gotta kind of tone it down a bit. I've also gone too far the other end, where I was like shaggy beard, way too much, and I had to like trim that down because I started to look really out of step. So yeah, I can definitely connect with that. So how did that evolve for you?
I listened to my friends, quite honestly. They were like, stay true to yourself. They were like, if you want to put on a heel, you put on a heel. If you want to wear leather, put on leather. But they were like, also make sure that it's, you can move around it. You can walk in it. You can, service your clients in what you're wearing. And I was like, you know what? That makes sense. So like, I really now am casual, comfortable, but I'm still myself.
Yeah.
So because I, again, had to learn how to dress for a long time. No, it was crazy, but we had a dress code. We had a certain standard of dress code.
Standard, yeah.
And I can't let that go, and I won't let that go because it is a part of me. It's like my DNA now. So I don't need to look like Selling Sunset, but I'm going to be put together.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to show my clients that like I am showing up for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting decision. The day that you step out of a rigid code, and now you have this paradox of freedom.
Yes.
Where it's almost paralyzing because you have so many options, and the more options you have, the less satisfied you ever are with whichever one you pick. Because there are just so many alternatives.
Yes.
And I feel like that can be overwhelming.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't want to like... just like you said, you don't want to be like, super mafia'd out. And by the way, it's not just about dress code either. It's also about like, am I going to be reciting everything that I see on like Keeping Current Matters, or am I going to talk about the market in a way that's relatable to me and relatable to maybe those who are around me? You see what I'm saying? So it wasn't just about like, what do I have on today? What do I look like? But it was also, how am I moving? Like how am I being able to be relatable to others?
Right. There's this balance between the professionalism where you want to be of value.
Correct.
On the one hand. But on the other hand, there's a level of authenticity that you don't want to get away from.
Exactly. And that's why it took me like 3,000 years to do content on my social media, because I was like, oh, I don't want to sound rehearsed, and I don't want to sound like all of a sudden, like I'm this ancient realtor. But I also wanted to educate people, and so I now have fine-tuned how to do that.
I think your content's great, by the way. I loved seeing it come out. It looks very professional, very clean. It's such a struggle for me to try to produce the kind of stuff that I see you producing. It's why I do this, because a conversation feels so much more authentic to me.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, like, I mean, some of that stuff I was like forced, and a lot of my friends are like, you have like such a great personality, and like you're humorous, and I'm like, I have dry humor, so it's hard for me to do like reels where there's voiceover, because I'm like, I don't see, that's not funny to me. I don't understand. Why would I ever do that?
Why am I doing this?
Correct. Because I'm like, I'm going so deep into it.
I got you. It's one of those things where sometimes we just have to create and put it out there, because ultimately we are not going to be the judges.
100%.
Right? I've had plenty of reels where I took like 5 seconds to make it. I thought, hey, I just need to get a post out.
Yeah.
And then it does double the numbers of any of my other stuff that I like tried so hard.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the other thing too. Like I had to stop like, setting up the day to like go and do this. I needed to be, if I had something to say, I needed to get it out then and there, because it would be a little more authentic.
Absolutely.
And so that's been working. And using my kids in my content because people want to see them. So it's like, hey,
because these are your friends.
Correct.
Right? They want to have this relationship with you. And one of the easiest ways to keep up a friendship with 2,000 people
exactly
is to invite them into your life.
Right. Exactly. And that's why I did not do like a separate like Instagram for my business because I wanted it all to be integrated because it's my life, and you'll see both parts of my life, which is my family and then obviously lots of real estate content.
Because they don't necessarily have a trust level with your LLC. They have a trust level with you.
Correct. Exactly.
Michele, any other last thoughts for anyone who's in a similar situation? All right, they're in a place in their life where maybe they've been in a corporate job for a long time. They're thinking about making a switch. They're doing it for the same kind of reasons you were thinking about doing it.
Yeah.
What would you say to those people?
I would say just do it. Don't think too hard about the what-ifs, the shoulda, woulda, couldas. Make that change based off of what your true north is. And you will find that you will be you will be all right. You'll be just fine.
That's right. Know your values.
Yeah, know your values, especially if you've been somewhere for, X amount of years or however long. Obviously, they kept you there for a reason. You added value there, and so there's a skill set that you have that is 1,000% transferable to an industry like real estate. So all I can say is just do it.
I love it. If anyone out there wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that? Yeah,
so you can hit me on Instagram. My Instagram is Michele 1L Cook. So that's C00K. And I'm also on Facebook, same username. And hopefully you'll have me on again. Maybe you'll see me here.
Absolutely. Michele, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching this episode of Hello Haymarket. If you'd like to follow our journey or learn more, follow us on Instagram at Hello Haymarket Podcast and subscribe on your favorite streaming platforms. We appreciate your support and hope to see you soon on the next episode.